Hello, everyone. Sidney Powell has been funding the legal defense of the Oath Keepers. You know, Sidney Powell, nonprofit Powell, she actually founded her organization after the 2020 election, and she has raised at least $15 million. But she is quiet about where the money is going. And you know, as the government's prosecution of members of the Oath Keepers, by most measures, the most significant of any to come out of the January 6th insurrection, move toward trial, defense lawyers face a daunting task. One, overcoming more than 2 terabytes of evidence arrayed against their clients, including countless hours of video footage from within the Capitol itself. There is a lot of video footage of what happened on January 6th. And some of those lawyers appear to be getting help now. They're getting outside help because the nonprofit founded by Sidney Powell, the former attorney for President Donald Trump, if you all remember who that is, who had repeatedly attempted to reverse the results of the 2020 election. So when I say if you all remember who that is, Sidney Powell was the former attorney of Donald Trump. And she has been covering the legal expense of at least one and potentially multiple defendants in the high profile case, BuzzFeed has learned. Since October, the organization defending the Republic has been making monthly payments to the defense attorney for Kelly Meggs, a member of the militant group, the Oath Keepers, who is charged with seditious conspiracy for his role in the January 6th Capitol riot. In an interview, their attorney, Jonathan Mosley, said he was aware of at least 3 or 4 other defendants who have that arrangement as well. The Oath Keepers General Counsel Kelly Sorrell said that one of those others is the group's founder, Stuart Rhodes. Offered the chance to deny that, his lawyer said they don't discuss funding. The revelation, which has not been previously reported, sheds new light on the activities of Powell's organization, was incorporated in December 2020 to defend the constitutional rights of all Americans. By last August, the group had raised nearly $15 million, according to its audited financial statements, and since then has raked in untold cash donations and sales of merchandise, including t-shirts, drink coasters, and highball glasses adorned with the organization's logo. Yet, despite mounting legal scrutiny from federal and state investigators, defending the public has disclosed almost nothing about where that money has been going. Third-party support of litigation is by no means prohibited. Venture capitalist Peter Thiel famously bankrolled a privacy suit by pro wrestler Hulk Hogan that bankrupted Gawker, and today there are investment funds dedicated solely to financing lawsuits in exchange for a share of settlements or verdicts. The tactic is less common in the criminal arena, however, and when used, tends to take on a far more politicized tint. Among the donors to the $2 million fund, Kyle Rittenhouse used to successfully defend himself against murder charges last year, for example, were gun rights groups, conservative actor Ricky Schroeder, and the CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, the Trump confidant known for promulgating wild conspiracy theories. And you know what? Mike Lindell definitely has some wild conspiracy theories out there. You know that? And I saw his pillows at a department store and they looked like they were dirty, like they had been used. They just didn't look like a nice, clean, well made pillow. Just thought I'd throw that in there. And then Ricky Schroeder, you know, is the actor that probably most of us watched when we were growing up, you know, on television. And then Powell's involvement in the Oath Keepers case helps explain how some of the defendants, most of whom are far from wealthy, have been able to work with private attorneys who charge hundreds of dollars an hour rather than court appointed lawyers. You know they're not going to have their court appointed lawyers if they don't have to. They're going to get some private attorneys to, you know, defend them. But it also raises questions as to who is dictating their defense strategy. In recent months, defense attorneys have raised many of the same far flung conspiracies about COVID-19, Antifa, and the deep state that appeared in lawsuits against the federal government filed by Powell herself. Such tactics have raised eyebrows among some attorneys representing members of the Oath Keepers who are not receiving outside funding. They question whether their unorthodox legal filings are hurting rather than helping their case. The filings have also brought rebukes from the federal judge overseeing the case, and in the case of Mosley, a threat of sanction. Counsel for Mr. Meggs is admonished to keep the moralizing and sermonizing out of his motion. Judge Amit Mehta wrote in late January, these proceedings will not become a platform for counsel's personal political views. Yeah, they got to keep those personal political views out of the court, the judicial system, okay? Powell, a former federal prosecutor who rose to prominence in the wake of the 2020 election, thanks to her promise to release the Kraken by exposing what she described as rampant voter fraud that cost Trump the White House, did not respond to calls or emails seeking comment. Her attorney, Howard Kleinhindler, and Brandon Johnson, a lawyer who has worked with defending the Republic, also did not respond to queries. A third lawyer who has worked with Powell, Travis Miller, said in a phone call that he has not done any representation for the January 6th defendants and that he was unsure what defending the Republic's activities were. Okay? Hey, Powell founded Defending the Republic in Texas on December 1st, 2020, and 4 days later added former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and his brother as director. But according to regulators in Florida, the organization has been soliciting donations in that state since November 2020 without registering as a charity, which is against the law. So what are they doing about it if it's against the law? In an August settlement with Florida's Division of Consumer Services, Defending the Republic paid a $10,000 fine, properly registered in the state, and agreed to provide audited financial statements to regulators. Well, that's what they had to do. So what was they doing? That's what they did. Those records show that Powell had an extraordinary success raising money from her repeated claims that the election was rigged. She also got people riled up, instigating. So between December 1, 2020 and July 31st, 2021, Defending the Republic raised $14.9 million. The financial disclosures show and note that in that time period, the group spent $2.3 million on legal and litigation support and an additional $2 million on advocacy. But they still had money after that, because if they raised $14.9 million, they only spent $4.3 million. They still doing real good. The records don't account for fundraising efforts in November 2020 or since August 1 of last year, including money Powell has raised selling $95 hooded sweatshirts emblazoned with the phrase Protect America. Other than $550,000 contribution to a group that audited Arizona's election results last year, there is no specific record of where Defending the Republic's money has flowed. Now, a defamation lawsuit filed by Dominion Voting Systems, which Powell falsely accused of handing the election to Joe Biden, alleged that she treated Defending the Republic's funds as her personal funds. Sounds familiar? We just heard a story about them. Somebody, redirecting them to the law firm she controls and dominates, and used them to cover her own legal defense. The group's Florida registration form, meanwhile, states that Powell receives compensation but doesn't know how much. Okay, you don't know because you don't want to know. And although the group claims on this website to be a 501c4 organization, Internal Revenue Service records show no tax-exempt entities registered under Defending the Republic's name or taxpayer ID number. In September, prosecutors from the Justice Department sent Defending the Republic a subpoena requesting fundraising and accounting records, according to the Washington Post, and subsequent reports found that prosecutors are investigating whether the group filed false incorporation papers in Texas. In December, the organization reached a consent order with regulators in Mississippi for failing to register to solicit donations in that state, as reported by Miami broadcaster and columnist Grant Stern. And in January, the Select Congressional Committee investigating the Capitol riot subpoenaed Powell, seeking records as well as her testimony. Last month, Powell sued Verizon in an attempt to block it from releasing her cell phone data to the committee. Look, she can't do that. She can sue all day long. But guess what? If the federal government is subpoenaing your records from Verizon, they are going to have to comply. And there is nothing that Powell can do. She can sue Verizon all day long. But if the federal government is asking for records from Verizon, Verizon is going to release them. Simple as that, Powell. You should know better. Meg's one of 26 members and associates of the Oath Keepers who have been charged in cases stemming from the Capitol riot, has had fundraising success of his own. Prosecutors accuse Meggs, the self-described president of the Oath Keepers Florida chapter, of stashing weapons in a hotel in Virginia in advance of January 6th, joining a military-style stack formation to push into the Capitol and searching the Capitol for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office, alleging in hopes of seeing Nancy's head rolling down the front steps. They were after her and they were going to try to truly hurt her, probably even, kill her. Weeks after Meggs was arrested in February of last year, a campaign was launched on crowdfunding platform Give, Send, Go, benefiting him and his wife, Connie, who is also being prosecuted for entering the Capitol on January 6th, although she has not been charged with seditious conspiracy. To date, the couple has brought in nearly $3,000 donations, totaling $152,000. So they have a lot of platforms out here that that can raise money on your behalf. And this is the one I've never heard of, Give, Send, Go, until I actually had read the article the other day. Give, Send, Go. But there's a lot of other ways, a lot of other platforms, and people also are using Cash Apps for donations. It's a lot going on besides the GoFundMe. Because if you're being caught up in something like this, you definitely would not be able to use GoFundMe for that. But data from the site show that nearly all of that money was raised prior to September. And according to Mosley, those funds were all but used up paying Meg's prior lawyer, David Wilson, whom he fired in late October. Wilson, reached by phone, declined to comment on the case. I don't blame Wilson. And Mosley, a Virginia-based attorney who describes himself on his Twitter profile as a political activist, said he was first approached about the possibility of funding from the Defending the Republic in September through an intermediary whom he declined to name. When I found out Meggs needed a change of attorneys, I learned simultaneously that there was this option, he said. Mosley also represents Christopher Price, accused of entering the Capitol on January 6th, and previously was the lawyer for Zach Rehl, the head of the Philadelphia chapter of the Proud Boys, whose prosecutors said was one of the people who led the group into the building and is being prosecuted along with the group's leader, Enrique Tarrio. And yes, he is being prosecuted, you all. He is one of them that is being prosecuted, Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys. And in early December, Mosley wrote in a court filing that Defending the Republic had agreed to cover Real's legal fees and expenses through trial, noting that it would not be a supplement toward legal bills, but the complete satisfaction of future legal bills, leaving no balance owed, even under the extremely shockingly discounted low bono rates being charged. Days later, however, Mosley withdrew from the case, and Rehl is now represented by a court-appointed attorney. According to Mosley, Defending the Republic pays him an hourly rate with a monthly cap. He declined to he declined to specify any figures, but said the rate was okay and added that it was on par with what court-appointed lawyers are paid. He said the organization requires attorneys to apply for funding, a process that includes submitting a biography of the defendant, among other things. He also said that Defending the Republic doesn't tell him how to argue his case. They've made it clear it's up to me to decide the things that need to be decided, Mosley said. Defending the Republic is really doing some useful things with the money they have raised. BuzzFeed News reached out to every attorney in the Oath Keepers cases, more than 24 in all, seeking comment. Many of them are public defenders and work on government salaries or are appointed attorneys compensated directly by the court. Among those private attorneys who were retained by defendants or denied being compensated by Defending the Republic, Scott Weinberg, for example, noted that his client, David Marshall, has raised $2,445 through crowdfunding adding that he was unaware of any third-party organizations offering defendants money for their defense. He said that everybody deserves their legal defense to be funded regardless of their political ideology. Chris Liebig, who represents Joshua James, also said he has received no funding from Defending the Republic. James, an Army veteran who owns a power washing business in rural Alabama, was part of a detail of members of the Oath Keepers who provided security to VIPs, including Roger Stone on January 5th and 6th, then joined others in others in the group who pushed into the Capitol. His story illustrates the financial challenges many Capitol riot defendants face. Following his arrest in February 2021, Jones was barred by the court from working for nearly 6 months. And in the meantime, his wife, Audrey, set up a Give, Send, Go fundraiser. Boosted by a strong social media presence and mentioned on several conservative internet forums and podcasts, the effort eventually brought in nearly $200,000. But by September, Audrey James was posting that the money wouldn't be enough if the case went to trial. When this all started, she wrote, "I had no idea what the legal fees would cost because we have never needed an attorney." Then in early February, she wrote that she would send the last of the funds to the attorneys this week, adding that Facebook had prevented her from sharing the fundraiser. "We still need donations at this time." Last Wednesday, James entered a guilty plea and agreed to cooperate with the government, becoming the first person convicted of seditious conspiracy in the country since 1995. A number of other lawyers declined to comment or did not respond to multiple requests for comment, including Virginia attorney Julie Heller. Her client, Connie Meggs, is the wife of Kelly Meggs, the member of the Oath Keepers who is represented by Mosley. Now, Haller, who served in various positions in the State Department, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the Department of Homeland Security during the Trump administration, represents two additional January 6 defendants who are not members of the Oath Keepers. She also has close ties to Powell, having filed several election-related lawsuits in concert with her, including challenges to the voting results in several states. In August, a federal judge in Michigan sanctioned Haller, Powell, and 7 other attorneys for suing in bad faith and for improper purpose, ordering them to repay the court costs and referring them to their respective state bar associations for potential disbarment. Disbarment. On Wednesday, it was revealed that the State Bar of Texas sued Powell on March 1st for professional misconduct. And that is true because why is she suing Verizon? Verizon, the government is subpoenaing that information. Verizon has to release it. So these are some, bad faith and improper lawsuits, you know, and so they need to be held accountable for these bad behaviors and wasting court costs, money, and it just is it's ridiculous. And I'm glad that the judge is holding them accountable on that. And Haller's brother, Pete Haller, a lawyer and former Goldman Sachs executive, congressional aide, and lobbyist, is listed as a director of Defending the Republic in registration documents the group filed in Florida last summer, which state he is in charge of solicitation and in charge of distribution. He declined to comment except to clarify that he was no longer with Defending the Republic, was never a director, and was briefly the group's general counsel. Jonathan Crisp, a Pennsylvania attorney, also did not respond to requests for comment. His client, Jessica Watkins, was long represented by a public defender appointed by the court for people who cannot afford their own lawyer. See, before you participate in things that are going to cause you to have to pay for an attorney or get one, you should not do it, especially if you have to have a public defender. But in late January, Watkins, who has been in jail for over a year and appears to have no source of income other than a crowdfunding campaign that has raised $25,000 to date, fired that lawyer and retained Chris, Watkins' boyfriend, Montana Sniff, also did not respond to a request for comment. Now, the most prominent defendant in the Oath Keepers case is Stuart Rose, the former Army paratrooper who founded the group in 2009 and is charged with seditious conspiracy for allegedly orchestrating a plan to stop the lawful transfer of presidential power, and who, according to Joshua James' guilty plea, was prepared for a violent confrontation with the federal government in the event of a civil war in the weeks after January 6th. And they were hoping to, bring this country to a civil war. They were really, really hoping to do that. And at the time of his arrest on January 13th, Rhodes happened to be on the phone with Mosley, who represents him in a civil suit and will do so when he testifies before the Congressional Committee investigating January 6th, as he has been called to do. When the FBI asked Rhodes to surrender, Mosley recalled offering to help him find representation. Sorrell, a Granbury, Texas attorney who is the Oath Keepers General Counsel, said she spent that day scrambling to find Rhodes a criminal defense lawyer and trying to figure out where he was being held before his arraignment. She was surprised, she said, to receive a phone call the next morning from a lawyer saying he was visiting Rhodes in jail and had been sent by Sidney Powell. I couldn't even find Stewart. He disappeared, Sorrell said, but this guy said he was now representing him. Court records show that Dallas criminal defense attorney James Lee Bright filed an appearance in federal court on January 14th, noting that he had been retained to represent Mr. Rhodes. Reached by phone, Bright and his co-counsel on the Rhodes case, Philip A. Linder, said they were contacted by a third party about the opportunity to represent Rhodes, but declined to say who that person was or who was paying their bills. They noted they already represented two other January 6 defendants, Texas couple Mark and Jaleese Middleton, and that on the day Rhodes was arrested, somebody called me, Bright said. He declined to name that person. Rhodes, who lost his bid for bond, is in detention until trial, currently scheduled to begin July 11th. In a brief interview he gave from jail last week, he called the case a show trial. Bright bristled at questions about who was paying for Rhodes' defense, saying it was of no consequence to the case. But he added that there are people out there who think these individuals need the best representation. All right, now, that's a mouthful, but we're going to keep, up to date. As I get them, I will give them to you. This is very interesting of all of this that's going on here. And with Enrique Tarrio, I am going to come back and do a separate video on him because he is being charged. And so I'm going to come back and do a video on him. And so I do appreciate you all once again tuning in. Thank you so much. And here it is right here. So I will be coming back right after this to do another video on the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. So God bless you. See you soon. Bye.